we are about to find the vertex of this equation by a process called completing the square. And something like this really throws off, the grade 10 and the grade 11 math students on their math quiz or their math test, because it has that fraction out in front, and we just sort of forget what to do, even though it's the exact same thing as what we always do when we complete the square. By the way, I already have an in-depth tutorial about completing the square and why we do what we do, going from both simple and complex examples, and you can find that here. However, this one is going to be just an example that involves the fraction. We're going to go a little bit faster. I'm going to assume that you already have the basics. So again, this equation is in standard form, and we want to write it in vertex form, which it looks like this. A is equals to x minus h squared plus k, where h and k give me the vertex. So I need to somehow go from here to here, and that process is called completing the square. The first thing I always do is I want to see what my a value is, and I need to factor it out. But I only factor it out of the first two terms, not the last term, which actually makes it a little bit cleaner. And this throws people off because it's a fraction. And so they start multiplying by the fraction, and then they're thinking, oh no, now I have fractions, this is such a big mess. But really, factoring out a fraction is very easy. So I'm going to rewrite this as -1/4, because that's the a value, start a bracket, and I'm only factoring out of these two terms. Okay, so the first term is easy because that's just going to be x squared. The second term, it's not going to be 3/4. What I need to do is, and I'm going to do this on the side, 3, when I factor out that -1/4, I'm basically dividing it by -1/4. And when you're dividing it by a fraction, you're multiplying it by its reciprocal. So this is equal to 3 times -4/1, which is like 3 times -4, and that is -12. Okay, so that's on the side. So in this case, instead of 3x, I'm going to write -12x. And close the bracket and finish with writing what was behind. The next thing I need to do is I need to look at that number that's in front of the x, which is within the brackets. Okay, and I always do this part on the side. You cannot do it in line with your work because it's going to mess up your work, completely mess up your work. So you take that number, in my case it's -12, and you take half of it. -12 divided by 2 is -6. Okay, keep these numbers on the side, you're going to need them later. And then I take that -6 and I square it. And I can't just write it this way, because this, especially if you put it in the calculator, is going to give you -36. But I'm squaring the entire number, so that gives me +36. So again, keep these numbers on the side. Okay, so why did I go through this trouble? Well, this number is going to help me create a perfect square trinomial, which helps me go into my vertex form. So now I'm going to rewrite this equation again, but I'm going to rewrite it this way. Equals -1/4, that's the a value out in front, x squared minus 12x. So far, everything is the same. Now this is where things get wonky. Then I add this number, +36. But I can't just write +36 for no reason. So I'm actually going to subtract that 36 again, right? Because now it's equivalent. Close the bracket and finish the equation with that -1 that was already there. So again, I didn't violate any math laws because I rewrote the exact same. These two are equivalent. There's an equal sign. This is equivalent. I rewrote it the exact same way, except I have this +36 and -36, which adds to 0. So again, it does not violate the math laws here. And why did I do this? Because this part is going to help me do something called completing the square. This expression is a perfect square trinomial. The only thing is I can't write it as a perfect square trinomial because I have this -36 in the way. So what do I do? How do I get rid of it? I need to take it out of the brackets, but I can't just take it out of the brackets because it's kind of married to this -1/4 that is in front. So in order to take it out of the brackets, I need to multiply it by what is in front. So I need to take this and multiply it by -1/4. Do that, let's rewrite this expression, but now we can close the bracket here. So this, again, is equal to -1/4 times x squared minus 12x plus 36. Close the bracket. And what's -36 times -1/4? Well, that's the same as dividing it by 4, right? So that would be 9. And a negative times a negative is a positive. So I would write plus 9 minus 1. So this is the number I just got. Okay, lovely. Now I can just take this and rewrite this, factor it to create a perfect square trinomial. And it's going to look like this. So again, that a value is still in front, -1/4, and x squared minus 12x plus 36. If I factor it, I would get x minus 6, close the bracket, squared. Now, how did I get this? Well, I can go through the whole factoring method, but really, because I put in the work here, I know that it's going to be x minus 6, because if I were to expand this back, I would get this expression. So I get x minus 6, close the bracket, don't forget the square because you're going to lose your marks if you don't. And then I combine these two numbers at the front, at the back, which is going to be easy because you're just adding them. And +9 and -1 gives me +8. Okay, so beautiful. Now your expression, you went from standard form to vertex form. This is vertex form. And now that you have it, you can find the vertex. So in this case, the vertex is, write it in brackets, you write the x value first. And remember, if you have a minus here, the x value of the vertex is positive, right? So 6, and then in this case, you don't switch it. So if this is a positive, the y value is positive. So the vertex is 6, 8. So here is the full thing again. These are all of the steps. Really, it's very fast. I've added a few extra steps in there. You can take a screenshot and study it if you want. But just remember, when you have a fraction in front, it's not any harder than when you have any other kind of number. And let me know if you have any questions. Leave them in the comments, and I will see you next time.